Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and today we're going to be going over a tubeless setup on some gravel wheels. So you might be wondering why you want to spend the time to set your tires up tubeless. A few of the benefits include a reduced number of puncture flats, especially for the small stuff. You know, if you run over a little street cleaner bristle in the street, the tubeless sealant is going to seal that hole right up. You're not going to get a puncture. Sometimes some of the big stuff, a little bit of a hole that's a little bigger than the sealant will handle, so you're not eliminating puncture flats, but you are certainly helping reduce them with tubeless. The other big one is if you're mountain biking, especially up at Camp Fortune, the local trails that we've got here. You're going to dent your rim a lot with a lot of the terrain up there, and you're going to want to run a tubeless insert, such as Cushcore, which Jeremy's going to put up on screen beside me here. And obviously, if you've got a tube in your tire, there is no way you're going to get that tire insert, so you've got no choice but to run it tubeless. Okay, so before we actually begin the work, we want to make sure that we've got all the supplies. So our tires are tubeless compatible. Our rims are also tubeless compatible. Definitely want to make sure we do that before we spend all the time just to figure out that they're leaking because they're not compatible. The other thing we're going to need, obviously, is some sealant, tubeless valves, and if your rims aren't already taped, we're going to need some tubeless tape. So the first thing you're going to want to do is deflate your tire. And we'll get this guy here off. There we go. Oh. And we're going to go around the tire and unhook the bead. I'm going to grab my tire lever, and then I'm just going to unhook this guy and go around now. Now on this tire, or not tire, but wheel rather, already has tubeless tape. So the only thing I need to do now is get my my tubeless core installed, or my valve, my tubeless valve. Just get that undone. Poke that through there. Got this little O-ring on this valve. All right, so that's it. So now with that valve installed here, what I like to do is kind of install the bead halfway around. And we're now ready to add the sealant. So the back of the Stan's bottle gives us a rough estimate of how much to put in here. So bicycle tires 1 to 2.4 inches, use 2 to 3 ounces of sealant. That gives us an idea of what we're going for here. Before I do that, I'm just gonna shake it a little bit. And then I like to kind of point it, if you go like this, you're going to spill towards the spokes. So I point it uphill, kind of, and then get that in there. That's lots. It's probably more towards 3 ounces if I'm being honest here. I'm just going to go like this. Open this guy up. Then I'm going to grab my compressor. So again, I've got my valve core open there and we're ready to inflate. For this, just go up to like 40 psi there. Then I'm going to close my valve. And then I'll put my valve cap back on. And then I'm just going to give this a bit of a spin to let the sealant move everywhere inside the tire. And that's it, this wheel is set up tubeless. So for demonstration purpose, I actually removed the tape from the rear wheel on that wheel set, and then I'm gonna show you guys how to set it up with the tubeless tape. So we're gonna find our valve hole, and then I'm gonna set the tape up. I like going a few inches above, and I'm just gonna set that right in the center. And then I pull with tension back here to get it to sit nice and tight into that rim. You can do this in a truing stand, or you could even do it with the wheel on your bike. And obviously I'm using my spare hand to brace the wheel in place. And then when I get to here, before I go back over this guy here, I'm gonna press with my thumb, and I'm just gonna push that in and get that to seal up. And I'm gonna go right down there, just because I wanna make this tape as tight and free of air as possible. And then I locate my valve is right about here. So I'm just gonna tape about 4 to 5 inches past there. And then I'm gonna grab my scissors. I'm just gonna trim that, get my tape off, and I'm gonna go like this. Get that down. The other thing I like to do, starting from behind this seam, I go around and just press it in and help to push any air bubbles forwards. And just help to make sure that the tape is fully seated there. You do need an airtight seal, otherwise this doesn't work very well. This, and there we go. So that's now nice and tight. We're ready to install our valve core, and to do this, I find the valve, and so I know it's right there, the little valve hole, and I'm just gonna put the valve, line it up, and again, making sure that this valve is closed, otherwise it's not gonna work very well. I just stick my palm on here and just break it through the tape. I like doing it this way instead of cutting a hole, or some people will even heat up a tool and melt the hole, or use a pick with a point. Sometimes if you use a pick with a point, it'll cause the tape to split lengthwise due to the tension in the tape. But when you break the tape like this, it kind of pushes that tape under, and then it gives a nice sealing surface against the rubber gasket on the tubeless valve. This one here is going to be a little troublesome to get all the way in. I'm going to give it a little help with a little tap here. Just like the previous one, going to get that little rubber gasket on. Not every valve uses that. This one here does. It's got this little cup inside that lock ring. Going to tighten this on there just to hold the valve in place. This doesn't need to be like crazy tight. You don't really need a wrench to tighten this on, but it does need to be relatively tight, because on the inside here, that's what pulls this little rubber gasket up against the rim tape. You do want that to be an airtight seal. Now that the tape is on the rim and we've got our tubeless valve in, we're ready to get the tire onto the wheel. I find it a little easier to drop the wheel inside the tire here, so in between both beads, and then go on top. And then push the bead from the outside of the tire into the center. What we're gonna do is line up this valve on both sides, and we just pull the bead. Once that's tight enough, I just flip it over there. And then just like before, I'm going to start installing the bead. And then pour some sealant in there. So then I'll just finish installing the tire here. So then again, I got my compressor here. I'm just gonna give this a shot of air. Up to 40, just like before. And I got my rag here. I'm just gonna go around and wipe off the sealant. Sounds like I've got a bit of a leak there. But I'm going to shake my tire, the wheel around, get that sealant moved around, and there we go. Obviously we can't forget to close our valve. And then I'm just going to wipe the little sealant off there, and then the cap as well. And there we go. So we have successfully converted both of these wheels to tubeless, and you're ready to get back on and hit the trails. All right, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. If there's any future how-to videos you'd like to see us cover, just drop a comment and let us know. And happy trails.